Hello, and welcome back to Healthy Vibrations, a platform that brings together trailblazers, change makers who are here to effectuate our youth. And today we have Yvonne McCoy with us. I met her through a networking event, and I thought she was an amazing women's business strategist. So I thought you should be able to hear what she has to say because she provides a lot of wisdom. She has over 35 years of extensive experience in coaching, operations, job training, combined with invaluable life experiences. She helps women entrepreneurs accelerate growth using their vision, innovation during change, and unique genius to find practical solutions. And these are the same things she learned to lose over her 150 pounds. Thank you for sharing that with us. Her biggest personal achievement. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Yvonne. So lovely to have you with us today.
I'm so happy to be here. I think the topic that you deal with a lot is so important. And one of the things that I got from talking to you initially was, probably one of my biggest regrets is that a lot of the lessons I learned so much later in life, I wasn't able to teach my children that when they were really young and could have made a huge impact.
Right. As we grow in age, we realize there's so much that we want to talk to our youth about and so much of wisdom that we can share. So I'm very, very honored to have you with us today.
I'm so glad to be here.
So I know we're going to talk about vision, change, community, and curiosity. The most surprising thing that you've learned about change, Yvonne?
I think that probably the most surprising thing that I learned was that it wasn't just a new beginning. I always thought of, I'm going to change, I'm going to have a new beginning. And what I learned is that in order to have a successful change, you actually have to start with the ending. What are you going to let go of? What are you going to make room for so that you can have this new change? And in between the ending and the beginning, there's this uncomfortable spot. In the model, it's called the neutral zone. It's kind of like when in your car, when you go from forward to backwards or backwards to forward, you go through neutral. But it's, neutral sounds very calm, but it's anything but calm. It's a place where there's an incredible amount of discomfort. It's a place where there's upheaval. And that's where most people quit. And that was probably the biggest thing that I learned that helped me to lose weight, was that when I was struggling to keep new habits in place, as I struggled, I started saying to myself, it doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It only matters how many times you get back up. And then I started adding, and how fast. Because if you didn't if you didn't get back on the wagon, it took you a year to get back, it was going to take you forever. But if you could do it in that week or that day, or even the next meal, you could change, right?
That is so wonderfully articulated. Yes, it's the small things that matter. We keep waiting for that big change that is going to happen, but we forget the small steps. And as you said, it's very important to sit with yourself in that neutral space. And that's the most difficult thing to do, is to sit with yourself and let your fears and let all of your own thoughts deal with them and understand yourself so you can create change.
And I think that had a big impact on the way that I looked at success, because I thought, it was binary. You either succeeded or you failed. But in reality is you take action, you see what happens. It's an experiment. Sometimes you fail. Most of the time you'll probably fail, right? And then you pick yourself up and then you keep going, you adjust, and then you get to success. So success is not like a binary thing. It's not a light switch. It's not an off or an on. It's more of a dimmer switch. One end is off, the other end is on. And in between, you've got some place that you can, make progress. And that really is what success is about. You're never going to get to the destination. You're really just going to make progress. And so and even if you're not changing, the rest of the world is. If you stay exactly the way you are today and never change anything, you'll get left behind, because the world is moving so much faster. And so change is a huge thing, whether it is in your business, whether it is in your, your own personal habits, whether it is with your, I mean, your children change, I mean,
Everybody changes, right?
everybody changes. And so learning a way that you can deal with change, a model that works for you is like, you have to have one.
And I think most of the times we don't realize that we're changing, but we are changing. I mean, our
That's
thoughts are changing, our actions are changing. What we did yesterday does not work for us today. So we may be very averse to change, but change is still happening. Sometimes we realize it, sometimes we don't. And the only thing constant in life is change.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Absolutely. So
That's the only thing that we have to hold on to. But I think a lot of people struggle with change.
because change means that you're doing something that you've never done before. And so there's a fear factor there. And so how you view fear has a lot to do with it. And that's where I think where the curiosity comes in. When something you don't know something and you can be curious as opposed to being judgmental and saying, I'm not going to do this, or why is everybody changing, or, take that kind of sense and be curious. And I think that's the other thing that I wish I had been more curious for my kids. And I think that is because, like most parents, we want our kids to be safe. And so, they say, I'm going to do this extraordinary thing. And you go, as opposed
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as opposed to being curious and saying, what do you like about this? Why do you want to do this? Whatever. And supporting them in that curiosity. They may not be a fireman. They may not be an astronaut or whatever. But, knowing that you're there to support them as they go along is probably the gift that you give them.
And it's also the fun of it, right? I mean, I remember my son, he wanted to be a fireman when he was a 7-year-old. Then he wanted to be a policeman. Then he wanted to go into the FBI. Then he wanted to do something else. So it's also allowing yourself to step into that curiosity with them and having fun with them and saying, okay, explore. The world is your canvas. Like, go for it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we talk about those beliefs that your parents give you to be safe. I mean, I know in my family, because my parents grew up during the Depression, having a job was the end all. It's like, stop changing your mind, pick something, get a job, and so, even though you rationally, consciously are like, I'm not going to do that, there's still a piece of that under the surface. My grandson, he's in his second year of college, and he got a full scholarship, an art scholarship. And he's really good. And it's, that limiting beliefs that keep you safe thing is like, make sure you take a minor in business, so you can, and, luckily he where he is, they have a new program in animation, which he's going to go into, which is his love. And they do internships, so he's going to get a chance. So he's going to be fine. So I don't care if he does business anymore, but I think that even though consciously you say, I'm not going to repeat the things that my parents did, they're so ingrained in you.
Correct. Absolutely. Now, I just don't want anybody to misunderstand us, and that's why I'm gonna highlight this: is vision is equally important, and it changes. So while you don't have to be married to any particular profession, and you should adapt to change, it's important to have a vision. And how do you think, and why do you think vision is important, and how does it evolve?
Well, I think vision is very high level. And so your vision can change and adapt, but your tactics of how you get there can change. And so you can say, in my case, I started out with, I'm going to help entrepreneurs. I mean, it took me a long time to get there, but, eventually, what I found was I liked helping people, right? And, teaching, but I was not a teacher. The tactic for me to help was not to teach. And so, the idea was that I wanted to help people to do what they wanted to do. And that eventually, went to helping entrepreneurs and then helping women. The tactic of how I do that has changed, so the values that are there to give people value for being with me, to help them to move forward with what they want, to help them see their own unique value. That's part of my vision, because women in particular do not see how magnificent they are. They do not see when they have their own businesses that they are the CEO of their business, because we like to be hands-on, and if you want your business to grow, you kind of have to take a little bit of a step back so that you can be the CEO. And so it grows, but the basics is still the same about do what you do well, help people, leave people with value. And I think for our kids, it may start just with the values part, that you're an honest person, that you're a caring person, that you know the difference between right and wrong, right? And then as you go on, you become, you add other things to it. So it's a work in progress. But the reason that vision is so important is because we live in a world of constant change. Vision is above the fray. And so when things happen, good or bad, you take a look at that and say, does this serve my vision? Is this going to help me to help other people? Is this going to move me closer to what I am? Because there's so many times when something happens and it seems like it's a great opportunity. Somebody goes, let's do this. And you go, yeah, let's do this. And then all of a sudden you go, why am I here? Why did I do this? Right? It doesn't make any sense. And that's the thing I think that is the undervalued benefit of vision. Not only is it when you get to your 100th birthday, people will say, she was the person that always helped me, and that kind of stuff. It helps you to make decisions and set priorities as you're going along through life.
Mhm.
And I just, I didn't learn that lesson when I was young, and I did not teach my kids that lesson.
So what I'm hearing you say is have a vision for our youth, have a vision. Your path may change. You may go into different paths, but your vision overall stays the same.
Yeah, it's kind of, one of the things I talk about is a sailing term. It's called dead reckoning. It's a terrible name, but it's a wonderful concept. And it comes from sailing, when you could not, before all the electronics and stuff. And because you always had to, correct because of the currents and the wind, you picked a point in the, in the distance, and whatever you did to correct, you always were aiming at that thing. And that's what vision does for you.
Wonderful. That is so beautifully articulated. I so hear you. And parents need to be a part of that vision.
Mm-hmm.
And follow their children on their path. I mean, whatever their path is. Now, I also I'm a TEDx speaker, and I did a talk on moving from control to connection. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear that, but I personally think that connection is an enabler for growth. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. And again, it's a repeating thing for me. I get really passionate about it because it took me so long to get to it. The idea, I was really steeped in the idea I can do it myself. I'm smart enough, I'm good enough, I can do it myself. But you don't have to, and you shouldn't, because community is a place where not only do you get something, but you get to give something. And it will help you move along faster, because you don't have to make the same mistakes other people make. And you can get ideas that you can, you don't have to go through all the steps that they went through, because you can go, oh, this is, and so, I find that, I'm just starting right now to help put together an entrepreneurial learning community, for just that reason, where, because entrepreneurs so many times, we start out having our friends and families back us up, and there comes a point when you're like excited about something and they don't want to hear it anymore. Like, no,
Right.
stop, can't you talk about it? So we need a place like that. And I think that, it's really important that, like I talk about my grandson, and his sister also is going, for art. But as they were younger, they were in a lot of, enrichment schools and activities. And I think that really made them very confident about their abilities as they were developing them, and, we're in a space where people could be curious and say, what if you try this? What if you try that? Um, so I think community is just, again, something that if you have community, you have resources, you have friends, you have people who will help you when the going gets rough, and people you can help when they need it. And I think
Absolutely. Community is such an important part of life.
absolutely.
And parents also can be a part of that connection. I think we all struggle as parents to be a part of that, to form that connection, because we're so invested in our child's growth and we're so emotionally tied to
Mhm.
the child that we want to control the outcome of the child's life, not understanding that the child comes from their own strengths and growth areas.
Yeah.
And we can build that connection, be part of their journey, and support their growth and let them go where they want to go, not where we want them to go.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing about community. I mean, I know probably the best person. I had someone in my life when I was younger who said to me, "I know your mother. I know the way she is. I know there are probably things that you want to talk about that you can't talk about with her. If you ever need to talk to somebody, I'm here for you." And she was like my rock. I mean,
And that's a huge thing for a child, right?
yeah, and even as an adult, I'll say to people, there are things that are going on. We so want our family not to worry about us, and so we have a tendency to show them the goods. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I get, like, you're going through something. If you need somebody to listen to you, call me.
Vulnerability is so important.
Yeah.
And you know how we can, to all our listeners, how we can encourage that vulnerability with our children is by being vulnerable with them. So they understand the importance of vulnerability.
And I think that starts partially with honesty.
Correct.
We try to shield them from the things that are going on, you know. And so, I just remember, like, my oldest daughter just turned 50, so we're talking a long time ago. But I remember there was something that was going on, and I kept saying, "No, you can't do it. No, you can't do it. No, you can't do it." And she's like, "I don't understand," and she just kept at it. And finally, I had to say, "We can't do this because I don't have the money for it." And how much simpler it would have been just to say, honey, I would like to do it. Maybe we can do it in the future, but I just can't afford it now. And
But it's hard for a parent to come from that place because you want to provide for your child.
yes, and you want to look like, everything is
You got it all.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that is. Thank you for sharing that. And I think all of us as parents struggle with telling our kids, we can't do this. We're not perfect. We want to sit on that pedestal. We're not perfect. We have our limitations, and it's okay to have limitations. We're humans, right?
Well,
So I personally think positivity and curiosity can absolutely help the change and the um, vision that we talked about and the connection that we talked about. I think positivity and curiosity has a lot of role to play in all of this that we've talked about. So how do you think these two, positivity and creativity, enhance our life?
positivity and creativity.
Hmm?
Hmm.
Curiosity, sorry. Positivity and
I was
curiosity.
going to say creative. Here. I will be vulnerable. I will be. I don't think of myself as a creative person, and I know rationally that's not true.
No, you're doing what you're doing. That's creativity.
Right.
You're helping entrepreneur women become the best version of themselves. And you can't do that if you're not creative. So creativity, I would say, and I used to say that about myself. So I totally understand what you're saying. But it doesn't mean it does not mean creating pictures and, visibly and defining something visually, because I'm not artistic. But that doesn't mean I'm not creative.
So one of the best lessons that I learned is creativity is not creating something out of nothing. It is about taking two things and making something different. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I do that really well with a lot of things. So I think curiosity gives you a chance to have more options. It gives you a chance to see more possibilities. I think that when when you, and I'm going to tell you, I got this from Ted Lasso, which is a TV show. And there was a podcast that went with it, and there was a positive psychologist and a leadership coach that just blew my mind. I mean, I would watch Ted Lasso, listen to the podcast, and watch it again. But what I came out of that was, when things happen, I say, am I being curious or am I being judgmental? And when I'm being curious, you know, I may end up at the same place, but I get there a different way and say, oh, I could do this instead of that. I can see this. I could get a call on this person. I could find somebody else. When I'm being judgmental, typically I'm saying no.
You're closed.
Right.
When you're judgmental, you've closed the window and you've said, it can only happen this way.
Right. And so that I think the thing is that I think it brings joy. I mean, I think it puts you in a place where you feel like you're not being controlled, that there are many things out there. There are lots of different ways to do it, and you can do it your way, right? And so I think that this last year in getting into the positive intelligence and the curiosity has totally had a huge impact on me. And and the fun part is you share that with other people, and they remind you of that. And last week I was talking to a friend who had something happen, and I said, this is, you had to put this off, but this is an opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And then something happened to me, and I wrote back and said, I just hate you, and she goes, what is the opportunity or the gift to the situation? And I wrote back in caps, none. And she goes, that's not true. That's not what you taught me. You have time to meditate.
That's a good one. You always have time to meditate. On that, when somebody tells me I don't have time to meditate, I'm like, dude, you can meditate on a traffic light.
But you know what? I love it when people bring it back to me, that I've impacted them enough that
they're challenging you.
Yes, exactly. And you have to laugh, and so if nothing else, being positive and curious just, brings more laughter and humor into your life.
Growth. I mean, when you look at, especially the way technology is evolving and the world is evolving today, curiosity and positivity can lead to growth, because I link positivity directly to gratitude.
Yes.
If you wake up with a mindset, a grateful mindset, turns what you have into enough. And then you don't live in misery, because you're not worried about the past, you're not worried about the future, you're grateful for what you have. And then you can effectuate change, because you become curious about what you have and how you can make what you have into bigger and more.
And I think, that's, part of where community comes in, because a lot of times we don't know what we have. A friend said, you can't see the picture if you're in the frame, And so, when you're in a community and somebody says, oh my God, that was a great idea, I would have never thought of that. And in the back of your mind, you're saying, doesn't everybody think of that?
Correct.
And then you realize, oh, so this is part of my gift. And community can help you with that. I mean, I find some of the things that I say that, I just say off the cuff, somebody else will be like, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think sometimes we don't do with our kids,
because we are emotionally tied to them, because we're so controlling with their outcome. It's amazing. You can say one thing that is so small to you, but it can be completely life-changing for the other person.
And I think excuse me, to be honest, I think that when you're raising kids, I guess I should call them children. I still call them kids, but
you're fine.
Your direction is pulled in so many different directions. Typically, that's kind of when you're building your career, you're raising your kids, your parents are getting older, God knows what's happening, whatever. And so you have to slow the pace down so that you have the time to listen. Or, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And so I think that is something that, that you need to build into your life, that you have some time that you, whether it's on a daily basis or a weekly basis, that you have family and you can talk about what's the most interesting thing you heard this week? What's the funniest thing you heard? What is the, whatever, not necessarily what did you do at school today kind of thing. So that you can really get a better sense of what's going on and kind of explore their worlds. And I just remember when my children were young, I was working part-time, I was going to school full-time. Then my husband decided to go back and get his master's. So he was going to school and he was working full-time. And, we would get home and I'd think, oh my God, what is for dinner? And my kids would go, can we have oatmeal tonight? I'm like, yes, I can do oatmeal. And the person at daycare would just say, when we picked them up on Friday, they'd say, all you have to do is just maintain the good things that we taught them this week, so that when they come back on Monday, that they're like not ruffians again, And so it's counterproductive. It's like, you're trying to squeeze every energy, every ounce of energy out, and to say, I'm just going to stop, and spend some time with my kids. And I think that the generation after me and the new generation, I think they've gotten much better at that. Thank God.
It's becoming more prevalent. We are becoming better listeners. I think the pandemic has taught us a lot. And with every generation, we're learning more. And we're learning the importance of life and breathing and spending time with our children and valuing families and not being so busy all the time.
Yes.
So yes, I could not agree with you. But this has been such a wonderful conversation, Yvonne, and I would have loved to go on and on with you, but we're at the brink of time. Any last message for our audience?
I guess you're going to put some stuff in the show notes, but I think the thing that I would say is, I know it doesn't seem like it, but really cherish and elevate your kids.
Thank you. That is so beautifully said. Yes. So we talked about change today. We talked about vision, connection, positivity, curiosity, and we need all of these elements to grow ourselves and to grow our children.
Mm-hmm.
So listen more, be more connected, don't control. They come with their own boilerplate. Each one of us comes with their own boilerplate. As long as we have a vision of where we want to go, the path doesn't matter. Thank you for being with us, Yvonne. I will put all the details in case anybody wants to connect with Yvonne. I will put all her social media and her website and everything on the caption. Please connect with her. She's wonderful. She is a coach for entrepreneurs and women. And I was very blessed to meet her. She's got a lot of wisdom. So I'm sure all of us can learn a lot from her. Thank you, Yvonne. It was a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.